Hi, Charles with Booksage here, and this is an answer video to Njeri of ONYX Pages' Slow Reading on Booktube video, which is itself an answer video to the original video on the topic from Elizabeth's Shelf Life called Do Slow Readers Have a Place on Booktube? And it got me really thinking about reading habits, and in particular my own, and about Booktube in general. I'm only about 6 weeks into having a Booktube channel, and I've noticed that a lot of the big booktubers, they have a formula that they work through, a cycle that they go through, where there's a book haul, and here's this book is in their book haul video, and then it ends up on a monthly TBR video, and they may or may not get to it that month, and then it ends up on a readathon TBR instead, and then they finally read it, and then it's in a wrap-up video where they talk about it, and it may, if it's good enough, get its own book review video, and then onto the shelf it goes. Whether a shelf you never see over there, or a highlighted shelf where it's always on screen, so in a Top 5 Wednesday or some other video they can pull it back out and show it off and highlight it again because they liked it that much. And they move through all their books in that cycle. And they buy a lot, they read a lot, they review a lot. And then you have your slower reader who reads it in a very different way with a different process. Like take this book, V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic, for example. I have not read this yet. I'm looking forward to it. And all I know about it is there are parallel Londons. Now, you have one type of reader, and that could be me, who is going to go through this book and just love every moment of it, read it over a weekend, maybe over a week. And then you have another reader, who might also be me, who might take a month to read this book because it may command that you need to take it in little sections and then read a section and then put it down and let it percolate and just get inside you and, like I said, sink into your bones and before you can move on to the next section. Or it may prompt me to go online or go to the bookstore and look up and learn more about London itself or particular neighborhoods in London and about what those streets were like. You never know. For me, each book is different. How I'm going to read that book and the pace I'm going to read it at, I don't know until I start reading a book. And then the book lets me know, usually pretty quickly, if this is a book I need to slow way down and take my time in and absorb, or if this is a book that it's a rollicking adventure and I'm going to blow my way through the book quick. Now, each has its own benefit, each is its own thing, but the slow way down and take your time, it may take maybe a month to read, where does that person fit on Booktube? Because they don't have that the haul, the TBR, the readathon, the wrap-up, the recap, the book review cycle, where they may only read 2 or 3 books that month. And they're not going to have that constant content. So where do they fit in? How are they looked at, or how are they perceived, or are they even noticed as a booktuber? Now, I don't have any problem with someone who's going to do that. I mean, for me, it's like you read what you want to read. You read at the pace you want to read at. You make videos at the pace you want to make videos at. But it really does bring to mind reading habits in general. And does the slower reader on Booktube have any kind of chance of having any decent-sized audience? And who knows? I don't know if they do. I don't know if I'll ever have a decent-sized audience, and I'm not necessarily a slow reader. Like, again, for me, it's every book's different. And I don't know why I'm holding this particular book up. I don't need to hold it up anymore. But another thing, one particular thing that made me smile about Njeri's video was, because it's something that I do from time to time, is she'll end up reading an author and then work her way through their catalog. And I do that periodically, where I end up discovering an author, and then I may read only those authors' books for like a 3-month stretch, where I'm not going to be reading anything from anybody else. I'm only going to be reading that author's novels. And as a booktuber, where does that fit in? How does a booktuber who's only reading one author for an entire quarter of a year, how do you booktube that? So it's just kind of really got me thinking about all this stuff and about Booktube and what it means and reading and pacing and just reading styles in general and where each one of these fits in to the Booktube world. I've already seen how Booktube influences and changes my reading to some degrees, particularly with readathons. I don't know if that's good or bad. So far good, because I'm actually reading shorter books than I'm usually used to reading. I have a lot of books on my shelves I haven't read yet. So readathons have been a good opportunity for me to dive into some of those books I would still be sitting unread on my shelves for over the next couple of years because of what I know I want to read. It's pretty much booked all the way through 2018, but I'm also kind of a mood reader, so we'll see where the mood takes me. I'm finishing up Nnedi Okorafor's Who Fears Death, hopefully sometime next week. That's a book I've been reading at a slower pace because it kind of commands it, at least for me. And I don't know. There's part of me I may just end up diving into the rest of Nnedi's catalog. I own a few of them already anyway, but we'll see. It may not. I have other things I want to read. But it's interesting to really start to look at reading habits and pay attention to them more now that Booktube is impacted by them, or at least my Booktube experience is impacted by them. This is part of what I already like about Booktube, besides just finding fun books to read. It does get your mind working and thinking and analyzing. And I like that. That alone makes Booktube worth it for me. And hopefully as I get more comfortable and get better at this and rediscover taking the words that form in my head and making them come out of my mouth in a more coherent and fluid way, because my brain thinks words different than my mouth says them. It's like they're written by two different people, and I'm self-editing the sentence sometimes right in the middle of speaking it. Because I think like a writer, but I don't speak like a writer. So it's translating from the writer's words into the speaker's words, and gets lost in the translation sometimes, and because it sounds awesome in my head, and then doesn't sound anywhere near what I was thinking of saying and thinking of thinking, if that makes any sense. But that's part of this whole experience. It's challenging me as a reader, challenging me as a thinker, challenging me as in terms of reigniting critical thinking in me as well. And again, I'm enjoying it, but I'm going to be thinking about this, the slow reader, for a while, and what it means and how it impacts Booktube in general, and even life, because our world is so fast-paced these days with technology and everything else, and it seems like Booktube gets caught up in that fast pace as well. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I'm just going to wrap this video up. And again, I am Charles of Sir Booksage, and happy reading.